Alrighty, guys, we're gonna do the BSCE portion of our advice/Q&A session. Remember, BSCE is a dreaded four-letter word. It's not about love, it's about BSCE at the end of the day. Yes, I put a lot of time in coming up with these creative titles. It's fantastic use of my brain space. Moving right along. So what is BSCE? It's your basic sciences cumulative exam. And what you need to know is that it's a giant exam that covers typically for year one med students, it's term ones and term two at SGU. Now, the little bit of history, and I love medical history and history in general. What you need to know is that BSCEs are essentially what US med schools often give at the end of every semester, right? Except for SGU, they do cumulative because they want to emphasize that they're prepping you for the boards and they want you to do very similar kind of mindset and prep when you're moving towards this. So typically in terms of material that's tested, it tends to be more heavily focused on term two as compared to term one. And that's the general consensus. Obviously there can be exceptions. For our BSCE, we've had a good chunk, I think 2 entire blocks that was just dedicated to term two. And then block 3 hit me like a rock. Not a regular rock, like Dwayne the Rock Johnson type of rock hit me. Like it was huge. Okay, there was like the entire term one kind of material kind of came bouncing back in block 3. So make sure you guys review your term one material. Don't sleep on pulmonary just because pulmonary was just like this little side thing that they mentioned in CPR. There was questions on that. So I want to make sure you guys remember that kind of general idea that term two is heavily focused, term one is also covered overall. NB3 is a perfect starting point when to prep for BSCE. To be honest, we were all panic and no disco, and we started prepping for it like literally like midway through NB3 because we were just tired and fatigued at that point. But it's a perfect module because it covers psychology and behavioral. And what great perspective can you derive from everything if you are completely stressed out and burnt out and you're like, perfect, now I can start prepping for BSCE. Yay. Just kidding. Important that you guys know that it's a module that's not conceptually heavy, but it's perfect for you guys to prep for cumulative review, which is what like myself and Priya did in terms of reviewing past review recordings, doing practice questions, and emphasizing anything that we were weak on during those weekends when we had a little bit more free time. Nowadays, when we're in term 4, we have no idea what free time is. It's all just panic. Yes, indeed. All right. And you guys are probably wondering, oh my God, BSCE, what dread? Exactly, I was the same way. So I created an entire folder that's just dedicated with practice questions, with anatomy concepts, and believe it or not, you guys are fantastic anatomists, but not all of you are going to remember what the watershed area of your DM module that you covered, like what does that relate to? Like all of those anatomy concepts can be quite difficult to kind of regurgitate on the spot. So there's an entire document that covers the essential high yield anatomy. So that's also linked out in that kind of, if you guys hover over this, it'll take you directly to it. So that's why I kind of put it on there just so that you guys have a good central resource. Okay, a lot of people ask me about how the questions are. Let me give you once again, a little bit of history lesson. Back in the day when everything was normal and we weren't in a pandemic, it feels like story time. What I'm gonna say is BSCEs were a model of NBME style exams. They actually used to get practice exams from the board's kind of committee, and they would deliver it to SGU students. Nowadays, since we're online and SGU can't really control the environment to their full extent, it's now more of an SGU specific exam. So that's why I'm telling you guys in terms of prepping for it, look at your past IMCQs. Do those weekly quizzes. Make sure you guys collect every single thing like a pack rat that I was, so that you guys can completely have your utility belt of resources that you can tap into for covering concepts that you guys are weak on. And I'm going to emphasize this. Do not learn every module over again, okay? Do not. You ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody, okay? Important to note is that do those practice questions. Whenever you start fumbling, okay, then review that, Okay, then review that module, review that topic, because it has to come from a place of weakness rather than a place of strength. That sounds very philosophical, like it could be in a fortune cookie, but it's not. What you need to know is that whenever you do these practice questions, just flag them. Like how you flag on ExamSoft, flag it for you to review maybe on Sunday or Saturday or whenever you guys have some time, that concept or that module or whatever. Once again, practice, practice, practice. The Facebook drives, the quizzes, the IMCQs, they're all linked out. Do not, and I'm emphasizing this, do not learn this material based off of past terms exam breakdown. They change this up all the time, okay? Do not learn it based off of that. Make sure you guys just do those questions until you see your weaknesses. I'm just gonna make your guys' life a little easier and just tell you that there's no Punnett squares on this exam, okay? Don't cover all of FTM 1 and 2 all over again. Central nervous system stuff, yes. And peripheral nervous system stuff, yes. Do not learn your Punnett squares all over. They do like asking those general questions of like, is it autosomal recessive? Do you use flow cytometry? Do you use, I don't know, ELISA or like all of these things in order to test for them, but like not with, in terms of like you calculating out like a Mendelian Punnett square. Okay, just don't do that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, just make your life a little easier. Definitely review CPR. Okay, CPR is high yield, MSK is high yield. We got a brachial plexus question of all, and I was like, whoa, that was yikes. And then they loved term to heavy material, right? ER, DM. I hate to break the news to you. NB came in full swing again. So make sure you guys review. It's really important. And you're going to see more and more cumulative questions on your guys' exams moving forward. High yield. As always, for those who are AEP/PLG, you guys are already at an advantage. You guys are not set, but it's given you another pass through the material and helps you condense it even more. You guys are going to do fantastic. Don't worry. For those who haven't had the opportunity to do AEP or PLG, make sure you guys go through the material like I mentioned. Okay, go through the practice questions and then find out the weaknesses and then revise those. Okay, don't learn all of the modules. I'm trying to make your guys' life very, very targeted rather than a kind of a global encompassing like ordeal of learning all the materials anew. Okay. That's just the general overview of BSCE. I'm gonna take a moment and open the floor up to us so that you guys can ask us any questions. Hopefully my internet doesn't drop out in the meantime. Questions? Feel free, there's nothing correct or incorrect in asking questions.
Is the BS? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Gloria. I know you're saying we should look back at the IMCQs and quizzes and stuff. I was looking at some of the NBME questions, which is why I had asked if we should focus on that or the SGU stuff. So I looked at like 10 of them and I noticed they marked on like an Excel which ones they actually covered and which they didn't technically cover. Mm-hmm. So I should probably only look at the stuff that they cover since they're making the questions. So the stuff with the X's.
Yes, I'm going to emphasize that. Do not cover that entire document that they shared with you guys. It's scary. It freaked me out. And I'm like, I don't know what pathology is. Don't ask me. Okay, bye. Like that was my general kind of principle going through. Do those X related questions that they've given you on an Excel sheet. I've linked it out in the drive as well. Important to note, NBME style questions are very, okay, let me backtrack a little. NBME style questions aren't like SGU questions. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there because SGU is very specific, right? They want you to know a little bit more than board exams so that you do well on board exams when you show up. Okay, that's why I'm emphasizing that you guys learn it like SGU exam rather than NBME, because NBME, every medical student from one part of the world all the way to US med students, et cetera, are taking that exam. So that it has to be a very standardized, very targeted, actually not very targeted, but more generalized exam, right? It's a board exam, right? So make sure when you guys are learning this, learn it for SGU. Any other questions?
I'm a little bit, I guess, not knowledgeable about like this upcoming BSCE exam. So like it's NBME style, which is like how the step one, it's like the boards basically. Like every medical student does this.
Yeah, so like NBME exams is like actually like the governing body that delivers your step one, step two, step three. Believe it or not, there's a step three that you have to take in like internship year. Like, you never stop taking exams. It's lovely. But here at SGU, they wanted you guys to have multiple kind of pass through practice questions, like how it's delivered in a lot of schools, right? A lot of schools don't even have like module specific exams. They get one giant cumulative exam at the tail end of the semester or a term, and then that's it. For us, we get module specific things, right? We become content level experts at that time, and then we get one cumulative one at the tail end of our year one. Obviously, when you guys get to year two, which I know all of you will, there is going to be multiple BSCEs that you get to look forward to in a term called term 5, which is literally prepping you for board exams. Okay, that's fully NBME style kind of questions. Okay, I just want to put that in there. For now, think of this like any other SGU exam. You got to prep for it like an SGU exam. You got to know those details that SGU has emphasized in the past. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I just like a follow-up. So like the questions that they presented at Sakai, I don't know if this was already asked. If not, if it was, I'm sorry. But like I was just a little confused. So those are NBME style. I think that's what Cynthia was asking. Those are
Yeah, you guys got a document, I believe, right? Like it was a giant like a booklet that had like NBME style questions. I think it even had like NBME like whatever. Those are a resource that they get from NBME. It's like literally like free PDF that they share with you guys. But those questions, they can either be very general, or they might not have like the specific SGU details. So just keep that in mind. Sorry, I'm slightly losing my voice there. That when you're prepping for it, prep for it like how you would with a content level exam from SGU. Okay, so like imagine you're getting like a little bit of like asking questions about like the three parts in three vasculature that goes to different parts of your GIT. Like, you can kind of run through the kind of vasculature that SGU has given you, or you can prep for it like a board exam, which is like you can revise boards and beyond, osmosis, so on and so forth. That's why I'm telling you guys, use the past review sessions, right? The recorded ones or like the live ones. Start attending those. I straight up crashed Brady and Lindsay's like FTM review like multiple times, like just as a cumulative kind of like learning experience. Make sure you guys do that if you guys have time. Honestly, just hearing even the information will start like helping you make connections and help you do better on BSCE. But just to kind of emphasize the point, you are prepping for an SGU exam, not an NBME exam. That being said, still do those practice questions that the school has given you, because remember what me and Priya have said, as always, more practice questions, the greater you will feel confident about the material that's being thrown at you during BSCE. All right, any other questions? Okay.
Kishore, I'm sorry to bring up the same thing, but you mentioned to Cynthia that the X's on the Excel are like stuff that we are supposed to do or sort of disregard.
No, those are the ones you do. The ones that they've assigned in that Excel sheet. I don't know. I don't remember the exact legend that's given to you, but it specifically highlights which questions you should be doing, right? As compared to the other ones. Don't do the entire booklet, because that booklet contains pathology, disorders, and other things you guys have not even touched. Okay, and that's just gonna freak you out more. Like, you don't need to know Takayasu syndrome from term 4. Okay, like nobody needs that negativity in their life. So make sure you guys cover like those basic concepts that you covered in like your not cranial nerves, your CNS drugs, stuff that you covered in FTM, your CPR, like cardiac output, is it going to increase or decrease with the afterload and preload, like those type of questions. Make sure you guys do those basic sciences questions as compared to clinical medicine, which you're going to cover in year 2.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Feel free to unmute. Don't feel shy about just throwing all of it in the chat. I cannot for the life of me keep an eye on the chat because I'm working with one screen today. So feel free to unmute and ask.
Hey, would you say that the SBME and as NVME is more BSCE, I'm sorry, I'm losing it, is more general or specific as compared to like the module, like each module, I guess? Like, do they ask, I don't know, similar questions like for that they did for each module, or if you remember?
Okay, I'll answer this and let's see what Priya also says so that we can like cross compare. We can validate the finding biostatistically. One, Priya's traumatized. She just heard biostats and she's like, nope, bye, I'm good. That was term 3 problem. The questions are like the high yield concepts from each module. So you can imagine in terms of NBME style, that's very specific, right? But for you guys, it shouldn't be a problem because you guys have learned the high yields very well. Like myself, Brady and Lindsay have had these review sessions covering those high yields so that you guys can get through each module and remember those high yields. So it's very specific in terms of SGU, right? And overall like information, but it's not as general as NBME, right? NBME is very general, like not general as in like, oh, like tell me if the patient has Marfan syndrome. It's like, no, it's not like that. But obviously you guys can identify if a patient presents with like aortic dissection, long like fingers, and they're like 7 feet and you're like, what's going on here? Like they have cardiac issues, like Marfan's. Like you can tell me that it's autosomal like dominant or recessive or etc. It's actually autosomal dominant, just so I can remember my cumulative information. Alrighty. Did that answer your question? Hopefully I clarified.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Priya, what do you think?
Yeah, like as Kish said, like NBME, like or whatever the acronym is, it's basically like more general. And so when I was going through, I'm like, oh wow, this is easy. Well, like okay, I don't want to be like sound too cocky, but like when you go through them, you would be like, oh okay, I know this, right? But then like during the exam, like for BSc, it's more like specific. Like I know we're on recording, but like there's like I still remember there's like one specific, like they ask you sometimes details too that about like an enzyme or something, but it's like high yield that it will come naturally to you. So I wouldn't say it's like general. It's kind of like again specific, but again as Q said, it's like more high yield topics that if you like go over it like during your practice, like going over the exam soft questions or MCQs, and then once you go into the exam, it will just like come like to you. So I wouldn't say it's like really general. It's again more SGU specific. So again, it's a bit more like I would say specific, not really general. So you would need to know like what does albuterol do or something like that, kind of going back to your drugs and stuff. So just kind of have those concepts in mind.
Okay.
Please tell me, and please tell me if you guys, you guys are gonna make me real sad if you guys forget your pheochromocytoma, because we had a pheochromocytoma question on our BSCE. Okay, like you got to tell me it's neuroendocrine in origin. Like they can ask you pheochromocytoma in like all sorts of different ways, but as SGU students, you guys have prepped a lot for this. Like you, even folks who aren't like scoring the highest in their module specific exams, you guys have prepped hard for it. And trust me, you have had multiple passes through the material. And this is not just me trying to be nice. This is for a fact. Like you will at least get average or above average on BSCE if you've at least been doing PLG sessions. And I'm telling you, even those who did PLG and AAP, they did fantastic. Like, and they didn't even study as hard as some of the folks who didn't. So trust me, you guys are set in terms of how you're prepping for it. In terms of scheduling, I think there's a BSCE document that's available in terms of schedule for how to prep for it, both on Anki as well as Firehouse Med Prep. So feel free to take a look at that so that you guys you have some kind of a schedule, because a lot of it comes down to the fact that you don't have that much time, right? You're learning new material as well as covering old material. Like It's a time crunch because it's prepping you for how it's going to be when you're prepping for step 1, right? You're going to have this vast amount of knowledge as budding physicians, but when you guys are learning multi-systems, you still got to learn new stuff. Like it's new information, but it just puts you in that mindset of like, I need to prep for a board exam. BSCE is like a similar board exam at SGU. I like look at Cynthia's face and like Gloria's face. They look so stressed. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel like I've just delivered bad news. Like BSCE is about like you facing your deepest, darkest fears, like a Dementor in Harry Potter. Like that's how it feels like. You guys are gonna be fine, I promise.
Cynthia and I are like nerding out right now on like, we're just chatting and nerding out about this exam. So that's, you know, I feel like I have that RBF. So I just wanted to let you know.
You're good. You're good. I just want to make sure you guys are okay.
I'm
As
just
always,
thinking about coffee.
good. Coffee.
Cynthia, I got you.
Any other questions, guys?
Thank you guys.
No
Yeah,
problem.
Thanks.
So much.
Thank you guys for
Thank
showing
you.
up after your exam. Thank you guys for all coming and wishing you guys best of luck on the next module and BSCE prep. I'll try to have some review sessions for you guys planned for NB2, and as well as knowing when and what material to start covering for BSCE when possible. And make sure you guys all watch Squid Games when you guys get a chance.